This is a big one. This is a big one today. I cannot express enough how major this information is here. Remember this book, remember this name, Zachary K. Hubbard. Number Games, 9/11 to Coronavirus. Author of Letters and Numbers, a book I was unable to get a hold of for a while. It was canceled in print, banned, I think in some parts, some way. It's now on the way, arriving tomorrow. I found a print, so I'm very excited about that. This book is extremely important, the information here. In ancient Greece, used to be called isopsophy, numerical values to letters. Now it's called gematria or gematria. And it's very important. The Hebrew language is even more straightforward than English in the way that every letter is a number, literally. And I'm going to jump into this book and follow Zach's words here to get some introduction. There's no one that can say it better than him. And this is a book, one of the few books that I can read, probably in its entirety on my videos without worrying about copyright issues. And the only other book I have off the top of my head right now that is one of the other most important books of the millennium, Where Did the Towers Go by Dr. Judy Wood, Evidence of Directed Free Energy Technology on 9/11. These people, Dr. Judy Wood, Zachary K. Hubbard, are some of the most important people that we have. Some of the most important assets that we have. Some of the biggest patriots that we have for the United States and for the world, for humanity. And so in reading their books, Judy's book I'm reading chapter by chapter, and then moving on here, I want to focus on Zach's book, Zach's genius, Zach's information. I'll say it now and again a few times. Gematria Effect News 25 is the current YouTube channel. I'll link it below in the comments. Absolutely. Look for that. I will link his book in the comments. His website, gematriaeffect.news. Save them, bookmark them. Patreon, this is someone to support. There's a few people with Patreons that I highly recommend to support, Zach Hubbard and Robert Sepper. Monthly support on Patreon. Plus, there's incredible benefits that I'll get into briefly on the coverage of sports and rigged sports. I mean, there's literally monetary benefit you can get there by listening to Zach. But what's worth way more than that is the information on humanity and how reality is being toyed with like the strings of a puppet by deep knowledge that has been acquired, is being used every day across all major platforms to run the narrative, to play God. I want to add in a lot of my own feelings about this information, but I would be amiss if I did not give you words from Zach himself as much as possible. So, and that being said, I think that going forward, I'm going to return to this book, and there's going to be sections I'm going to read in their entirety to share this information, because as a point I was making a second ago, with Judy Wood's book, with Zach's book, these books are out here to give you the information, for you to take ownership of the information and share it, to understand it, first understand it, and then articulate it, share it. there's not so much a self-interest in, say, if I read somebody else's book, if I read a whole chapter or the whole book on a video, there would be copyright issues and things like that. It's something we're not going to run into with these two authors, and specifically because of their desire to help, their desire to inform, to save lives, to change the course of the direction we're headed. Someone recently tried to call me a moron for reading directly out of Judy's book. They don't understand. These authors want this information to be shared in every way possible. And I highly respect that. And I'll say, buy the book, support Zach and yourself and your own knowledge. Don't want to miss out on this information and the reality we're living in. Purchase this book. Zach's been working on another book for quite some time. I don't think it's out yet. And then Letters and Numbers is somehow briefly available on Amazon. I'm going to link that as well. I've got mine on the way. Probably end up buying several more copies of these, giving them out at the right moment to the right people. Got to be ready to learn, ready to listen. Now let's get into Zach's words himself. I'm going to start by the back of the book. I'm trying not to make this video too long. One, for upload purposes, and two, because I'm not going to overthink this video too much, because this is highly worth. I'm going to totally have a playlist on this book and on Zachary's information with his links. I'm going to link his website below. Follow this person. Listen if you need to take a break from the information, because it can be kind of a lot to take in. Just number-wise. Take breaks from it, but return to it. Return to it. It's very important. It's very important as far as what's going on, who's controlling what's going on, and basically who or what is leaving their fingerprints on history, on huge events, on the controlling of the current narrative and the path that everyone is on as a collective worldwide. Back of the book, number games, 9/11 to coronavirus. There is a code as old as time and as simple as ABC is 1, 2, 3. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. That is being used every single day to contrive the stories that become the news and in turn our collective reality. This book is about that code, known as gematria, and it has been written for the purpose of shedding light on who is using this knowledge to the detriment of humanity. As you will learn, the same party using the code is the same party that is responsible for the events of September 11th, 2001 and the coronavirus pandemic of 2020. And that party is the Catholic Church, or better said, the Whore of Babylon. As you will also learn, the Catholic Church is the same entity that gave the world the Gregorian calendar and the English language, two things that are perfectly in tune with one another, thanks to the Jesuit order, who have served Rome since 1540, just before the establishment of the Gregorian calendar and English being standardized as a 26-letter alphabet, and not arbitrarily. As you will come to understand, the 26 letters have everything to do with God and playing God. Now, that being said, it's a little bit even risky for me in my own channel just reading those words right there. So I hope we're not taken down for that at all. But I hope that message gets across. Now, I'm going to try and read some out of here. I may have to be careful in pushing some of these words more, just so we can keep this video up. Definitely, ultimately, the channel, but to help share this information. And the beginning just opens up with a bang. It is very well explained. Let's dive into it. Should you read this book? If you think it is interesting that on September 11th, 2001, Flight 77 reportedly hit the 77-foot tall Pentagon in Washington, D.C. on the 77th meridian west after taking off at 8:20 a.m. and crashing at 9:37 a.m. 77 minutes later, then this book is for you. Furthermore, if you can comprehend that there is a code of numbers behind the letters of the English language as simple as ABC is 1, 2, 3, and using this code reveals that phrases and names such as September 11th, written out letter by letter, World Trade Center, and Order from Chaos all equate to 77. This book is definitely for you. And please know, these are all facts, just the same as it is a fact that Pentagon construction began September 11th, 1941, just prior to Pearl Harbor. And as Zach points out many times, 9/11 is referred to as the new Pearl Harbor. Table of contents. 1. Introduction to Gematria, the language of the Cabal. 2. 1968, year of the coronavirus and 9/11 master plan. Chapter 3, 222 months later from 9/11 to the coronavirus pandemic. 4, Event 201, the Jesuit order, Anthony Fauci and Pope Francis. Chapter 5, Crimson Contagion Pandemic Exercise and New York Times. Chapter 6, Clade X Pandemic Exercise and the Pandemic 666 Days Later. Chapter 7, Operation Dark Winter and Mr. Bright's Darkest Winter Warning. Chapter 8, Donald Trump's Vaccine Plan, Operation Warp Speed. Chapter 9, HR 6666, Contact Tracing, ID 2020 and the Big Tech Takeover. Chapter 10, Rockefeller's 2010 Scenarios for the Future of Technology. Chapter 11, Bill Gates' first birthday on Jonah Salk's 42nd. That's a name, Jonas Salk. When he turned 42 years old, it was Bill Gates' first birthday. And Elvis. And why all those three come together. Elvis getting the polio vaccine on television on this day. The same day, October 28th. Chapter 12, Tom Hanks and the use of celebrity to sell the pandemic, which is also what I was just saying they did with Elvis. Chapter 13, Nadia the Tiger, Tiger King, and Year of the Tiger, 2022. Chapter 14, Coronavirus Predictive Programming in Popular Media. Chapter 15, Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl 54 and win number 54 and win. And I'm going to start that over so I read it right. Chapter 15, Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl 54 win and 222 ritual. Chapter 16, NBA suspension and Kobe Bryant's burial in Corona del Mar. Corona. Chapter 17, Trump's assassination of Qasem Soleimani and World War III rumors. Chapter 18, George Floyd, NASCAR, and the racial aspect of coronavirus. Chapter 19, The Strange Thing That Happened in Hotel Room Number 201. And at the end of the book, for anybody reading this book, I can understand, like I said, take breaks as you need them, but read it all the way through. I read about halfway through the book, and I've got so many books and so many topics I was trying to learn. I thought, okay, I'm getting the idea of this. I'm going to continue following Zach's YouTube channel, which is being continually produced every single day. Always check in on it. Again, it's going to be linked in the comments here on this video, and I'm pretty sure I have him in the featured channels section of my channel itself already. Synchronization. So Zach does identify, what's the word? and like an organic side of how numbers work and how numbers work with reality, because they do, and they're a sign. They are a sign of maybe where we should be, who we are, how we're connected, how it's all magically connected. But without a doubt is being used, knowledge, a tool to control history and the future. And so Zach goes over some of his own numbers with his own family, his connection with his mother, his father, his sister, and even my own. My last name's Fortenberry right now. It actually has evolved from a name that used to be Van Valkenburg. And even just looking that up, the numbers on Van Valkenburg, that equals 201. So that stands out to me. I wonder why the name was changed. That name goes back into all the way to the year 1200, 1100, probably older. Comes from a place called Valkenburg, or Oud Valkenburg in Limburg, Netherlands. It's a castle there. Anyways, I got a video coming up on some of that information of the history of my name and some of my genealogy, ancestry, stuff like that. But I found connections there. Look into the numbers in your own life, in what Zach calls the Pythagorean cipher, which is also called reduction. Reduction. I think it's also called numerology. Adding the numbers up when you get 2 digits. For example, the letter J is the first 2 digits, heading from A to Z. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, E is 5, F is 6, G is 7, which is a huge one. That's the letter that's in the middle of the Masonic symbol, the letter G, the number 7. When you get to the letter J, it's the number 10. So when you get to reduction, like J, K, L, which is 10, 11, 12, you just take those 2 numbers, add them together, and bring them down to a single digit. So J is 1, K is 2, L is 3, M is 4, because M would be 13, which is huge. But then you take 3 and 1, okay? So it's reduction. The Pythagorean cipher. And I got, let's see. I'm trying not to lose track. There's so many things running through my head. I take it, by the way, I take an interest to this. I take an ability for this because I'm connected to numbers. The way my brain works. I've always been connected to numbers since I was a small child. I used to have a little bit of OCD on counting to the number 4 all the time. Had to be even, left and right, and all these weird things. It's kind of common for kids. If your kid does it, don't worry about it. Or if you ever did it and thought it was weird, it's probably a benefit to you. But I was always connected to numbers, and especially with the number 4, interesting. The 4th book of the Bible is Numbers. The 4th book of the New Testament is John. I'm John. My birthday is June 24th, just like John the Baptist. June 24th is highly connected to Freemasonry, the Grand Lodge. Basically the first one in England was dedicated to John the Baptist, June 24th, 1717. June 24th, 1947 was a major day in history as far as UFO sightings or flying saucer sightings, and that stood out to me. I just did that Renato Vesco book, Intercept UFO, and right in the beginning, June 24th, 1947, bam, talks to me, stands out to me, and it's one of those things, and the natural synchronicity of things where I find I'm connected, and I know that I'm probably in the right place. I've been pulled into this. I'm a part of this. June 24th is typically the 175th day of the year. I have connections just watching 9/11. I was 12 years old when I saw it. There's Flight 175. And so there's so many different connections, natural connections. And if you find that you understand it well and you start seeing them in your life, it's probably good for you to take a look at it, understand it. You can be able to talk to people about it. So at the end of the book, it's touching too to hear more personally about Zach. There's some in the beginning, there's some at the end about some of his number connections, it fully sinks in with me. Like me and my sister, for Zach, when you get a chance to watch this, and everybody else, it's interesting how we're connected. I was born on the 175th day of the year, the day leaving 190 days left in the year, or sometimes 191 days left in the year. My one and only sibling was born on the 190th day of the year, which is July 9th. The day leaving 175 days left in the year. So our numbers are opposite. I was born on the 175th day of the year, the day leaving 190 days left. My sister was born on that other exact day, the 190th day of the year, the day leaving 175 days left in the year. Only those 2 days. That number would be July 9th, or 7-9, and my sister was also born in 97, and that day was also 97 days after my mother's birthday. I'm also connected through this, like with my mother's birthday. She's the same birthday as Queen Elizabeth, July 21st, the 111th day of the year, the day leaving 254 days left in the year. That's significant because 9/11 is the 254th day of the year, the day leaving 111 days left in the year. So some of these, and it was me and my mother together, who were together. It was early in the morning in California, watching. I was 12 years old at the time, watching on television 9/11. And me and her both, but more so myself, looking at it, like I was like, there's something wrong with this 9/11, 9/11. It was some of my first thoughts. And then the way that the towers were destroyed, I thought, this doesn't look natural. I'm glad I saw that sunk into me, and it's become a part of me. And now I've gone through a life that's drawn me into really discovering it. So I'm very connected. Those are some interesting numbers, synchronicities. I have 4 children right now. I got 4 daughters, and what's kind of wild about them, each one of their birthdays is very significant. And my first daughter was born 632 weeks before my second daughter. My second daughter was then born 632 days before my third daughter. Very interesting. And I didn't have gematria in mind until I had my third daughter. And it had somewhat, I guess, I think I basically picked their names because I feel like I've got a good talent for picking names. But I was aware, I didn't pick their names specifically for the gematria of them, but I did check it before they were born and watched it, looked at it, and I thought, wow, that's interesting, according to what I picked. So there's numbers in our life, there's numbers in our names, in my name, Jon Fortenberry, there's numbers that are involved with that. There's numbers involved with Fortenberry, there's numbers involved with Jon, I spell it Jon. There's my full middle name, or my full first name is Johnny, and it's spelled Jonny. There's no H. So then there's Johnny Fortenberry, or there's my full name, Johnny Ray Fortenberry. So there's a lot of numbers involved with that. Like I said, Fortenberry comes from a name Falkenberg. An ancestor of mine is actually on Wikipedia. I think they have it on there, Hendrik Falkenberg. He was a translator for the Lenape Indians, between the Lenape and the English, and he was a Dutch. His father came from the Netherlands, at least I think so. There's a possibility that they had to do something to do with, could have already been here, but Falkenberg came from Van Valkenburg, which means from Valkenburg. There's 2 Valkenburgs in the Netherlands. One of them's in Holland, the other one's in Limburg. And like I said, Van Valkenburg has 201 in it. That's highly interesting. Anyway, so it's very involved with my own life. It's involved with all of us. So understanding the first 4 ciphers, I'm going to get into it and read some of that in his book here before this video gets too long. It's already 25 minutes. Let's get to the meat of some of this about the author and book, Number Games 9/11 to Coronavirus. It says, hi, my name is Zachary Hubbard, and on September 11, 2001, in addition to everything else you know about that date, I made myself a promise. The promise was, I will find out who is really responsible for 9/11, and I will do something about it. I said that because I knew I was being lied to about the entire story, and at that same time, I felt that I was being mocked. This was mostly due to it being reported that there was a national emergency, like none other, on the date written, no different than 911, the national emergency dialing code for the United States, only to find out shortly after that World Trade Center construction had started in 1968 in New York, the same year 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. In addition to those details, I'd always had a strong sense for justice and doing what was right when given 2 or more chances. And I relate to this a lot. When given 2 or more choices, doing what was right. I was also thinking about how if I had made a slightly different decision a summer prior, I might be one of the young men being shipped off to fight the coming war, based on an obvious lie, as some of my friends were, including my buddy Oscar, who I had known since 2nd grade. I was only 18 years old then, in my 2nd week of college, living out of state, but I wasn't anybody's fool. Since then, nothing has changed about my sense of justice or doing what is right, and I never broke my promise to myself either. That's why, as of the start of 2020, nearly 19 years of extremely time-consuming research, I definitely know the answer to the question of who was responsible for September 11, 2001, and I want the world to know as well, and to be able to prove it in the same way I can, in a way that is truly undeniable and deep and evidence-based. That is what this book is about, a book that has the power to change the world in terms of exposing and ending tyranny and thinking about the way we treat each other and this place we call home, Earth. I thank you for taking the time to read it, and I promise that if you do, you'll enjoy it and you'll learn way more than you expect. Plus, you'll develop a skill that will benefit you for the rest of your life. If you agree with the phrase, knowledge is power, then this book is for you. Cheers, truth seeker. And oh yes, one more thing, you'll also learn that the same cabal behind 9/11 is the same cabal behind the coronavirus outbreak. And this is because they are 2 related agendas. That are about building a technocratic surveillance grid so that government and big industry can have a watchful eye on all aspects of our lives at all times for the continued sake of power and control. And we must stop it. I'm going to go a little bit more here. Like I said, I'm facing these slow internet issues with uploading. I want to make sure this video works. It doesn't have too much trouble reaching about the time frame that I can provide right now. But I want to introduce you right here at the beginning of this book. And then we're going to come back and I'll probably read the first chapter in its entirety to help. But you really got to learn. If you feel that calling to learn this important knowledge, follow it. Introduction to Gematria, the language of the Cabal. You've likely heard the term the Cabal before, meaning a secretive and political organization. The name originates in Kabbalah, an ancient and widely practiced mysticism. A central belief within Kabbalah that we will focus on for the purpose of this book is God created the world with a language by combining the number with the letter with the word. This is expressed in the foundational text of Kabbalah, the Sefer Yetzirah, or in English, the Book of Formation. And I have a copy of that. Let's see. At least I could maybe show you. I can find it. There's a copy. We're going to do a review on this pretty soon as well. I still have to read it. In its opening paragraph, it states, in reference to God creating the world, He creates His universe by 3 forms of expression: numbers, letters, and words. This belief about creation from the Book of Formation is in line with the beginning of the Holy Bible that begins with Genesis, where God speaks the world into existence over the course of 6 numbered days before resting on the 7th day and making it holy. Ahead, we'll touch more on the number 7 and it being holy because it is an important concept to understand. For now, please recognize that both God and Genesis begin with G, the 7th letter of the English alphabet. In Kabbalah, the practice of coding numbers into words is known as gematria, meaning geometry in language. Gematria is very popular in Hebrew studies and in ancient Greek studies, where it is known as isopsephy. If you are familiar with Revelation 13:18 from the concluding book of the Bible, it is a Greek isopsephy riddle. In the New International Version Bible, the verse reads, "This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. In this chapter, we will uncover that wisdom. And in the chapters ahead, we will use it to understand who the Cabal is, for what purpose they are working towards, and why they have encoded the number 666 into world-changing events, including September 11, 2001, and the coronavirus pandemic of 2020. As well as smaller but related rituals, including the premature death of basketball superstar Kobe Bryant." Incredible chapter. It's a long chapter. It's filled with information, mind-blowing connections. Get this book. You can even flip right to the chapter, but it's good for you to get the understanding and the introduction, learn a little bit about how it works. By the way, Zach will explain how he discovered it, which this is a book which I already had before I heard of Zach. I've read it cover to cover, and I understand where he learned and picked up on what some of this information is. Secret Teachings of All Ages, Manly P. Hall. To begin to understand the wisdom of gematria and how the English language is encoded with it, we will start with the most straightforward cipher, known as Simple English Gematria, where A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and so on, counting each letter as a number, using the alphabetic order up to Z. The 26th letter is 26. The Simple English Gematria cipher is as follows. Okay, so you get breakdowns of this in here for you to learn. There it is at the top. Okay, so now you know A through Z is 1 through 26. And then reverse simple gematria is backwards. Z is 1, A is 26. Okay? Then the reduction one I explained is when you take the 2 digits and put them together, reduce them to a single digit. So then you only have 1 through 9, and then 1 through 8. Z is 26. 2 plus 6 is 8. Okay. Using simple English gematria, notice each of the words in the cipher name equate to 74, which is incredible. Okay, so I'm going to show you this page, and I'm going to shut this video down here, and we'll get on a new one pretty soon. The words simple, the word English, and the word gematria. Look how they all hit 74. 74 is a huge number. Remember July 4th, Independence Day. Okay, simple. There's the letters 19, 9, 13, 16, 12, 5 equates to 74, understand? And there's English, then there's gematria. And we keep going. Jesus, Messiah, Gospel. What was that other one saying? I'm trying to read it backwards through the phone. Parables, cross, all equals 74. Jewish equals 74. Muhammad, Lucifer, Masonic, occult, London, holiday. Killing, stabbing, bathtub, drown, Oregon, free. Roman. Okay, so this is like wow. So I'm going to end it there. God and letter equal 26. Letter is written in the Pythagorean gematria, and that's the one with called reduction. Crusade is 26. Spell is 26. Jesus Christ, 74. Okay, so then of course a lot of you have heard the number 33. That we get all over that number. But there's an introduction for today. I'm going to come back and get into this book. Heavy. And so these are some extremely important people to me. Judy Wood, Zachary K. Hubbard, Robert Sepper. So these people are really showing us what the hell's going on in the world. I want to show Sepper's books here too. I've got all four. I'm going to be doing reviews on all four. I already did 1666. Okay, there's something going on with history being hidden, the power that's out there, where we come from. This is an old symbol, much older and much more involved with the world than the narrative that they try to tell us about World War II. Very interested to learn about that. Haven't read that book yet. We're getting into it, learned it, found it through Robert Sepper. And then as far as the organic side and a direct side, or how people are being used directly, people who are, I think, in knowledge that they're being used, or they're part of this this organization, this running of history. And then I think that some of them are like, which Zach will explain much better than me, are being used, but they don't quite understand it. But they're being used because of the spelling of their name. The date that they were born is being used to write this history together and have it all fall in line like a magical spell, because of all the numbers are lining up well. Just something I want to bring up on my own to add to that is I've discovered James Giordano, this book, and he's got another huge one. This book is called Scientific and Philosophical Perspectives in Neuroethics. James Giordano will say they have all the controls that they need to be able to control the mind in so many different ways. Some that might be hard for you to imagine, but it's there, it's real. And he's basically just talking about, hey, we can do it. Now, what's the ethics behind it? If you don't know who he is, look him up. In fact, this guy kind of calls out the pandemic before it happened and lined it out word for word on a couple of very famous YouTube videos. In that case, I'm kind of explaining, like, I wonder, like, you know, guys that I followed say that have to do with 9/11, Tim Kennedy and Jocko Willink. I did a review on Tim Kennedy's book. I kind of called him out a little bit on him in 9/11. I was just thinking, like, hey, why aren't these guys talking about it? That was my mindset before. Now I'm looking more into the psychological response, human behavior of all this. Why some people, which is basically natural. The Bible will tell you that. Plato will tell you that. Some people, they've lived in a cave. You try to show them the light, they might hate you for it. So, but Tim Kennedy was born on September 3rd. 93 is a huge number. Obviously, with 9/11, there's Flight 93. The South Tower was hit by a plane at 9:03. I think the time 9:03 was involved in the Oklahoma City bombing as well. But September 3rd leaves 119 days left in the year. So Tim Kennedy is right up there with it as far as all of his numbers being important and why he's so involved in military, 9/11. His story, or even his tag name, Tim Kennedy MMA, and these things, I think his is like, some of his numbers are 132. 132 is huge because of the United States of America. Some alignment there. Then Jocko Willink. Now, I bring these people up because to me, I'm like, hey, these are some of the biggest patriots. Maybe these are some of the people that can help us. And I used to kind of call them out. I've even met them both in person, and they'll just ignore it. Jocko Willink was born on September 8th, the 251st day of the year. That is the 54th prime number. 54 is huge. Jocko Willink also equals 54, 180. And he's got 3 out of 4 ciphers that match, I think, the Jesuit order or Jesuit order. So I'm like, damn, the name hits hard with matching up. And that's how some of these things are brought together, because in my experience with social media marketing and search engine optimization, search engine is very much like how the magical spells of our reality work. The more relevant it is, the more relevant, say, a website is, search engine, for it to show up on your search list, has to be very relevant. So when you take someone whose name, the spelling of their name, their life, their birthday is basically search engine optimized for the event that needs to take place, like Jocko's highly involved with military, Navy SEALs, 9/11, Ramadi, Iraq. These guys are still on the news talking about it and stuff. It's kind of how they're used. So Kobe Bryant's huge. His name, his birthday, his entire career, the points he scored on his 666th game, Michael Jordan, all of these things. It is absolutely fascinating. It's scary, but it's important to learn. It is very important to learn. So I can't express that enough. So I think some of these people, according to their numbers, their birth dates and stuff, I think, as James Giordano might put it, might be kind of being used without knowing they're being used. Maybe Kobe Bryant was. I'm not sure. I would think he would be aware of some of the stuff he was involved in. I don't know. Everybody across television, Hollywood, music industry, politics, and the news. All these events used in the news, the whole entire George Floyd thing, and that's all over this chapter. A whole chapter. This book was written during that time, and finished up at in the summer of 2020. So can't express it enough. I'm going to stop there before the time goes too far to make sure this video works and uploads correctly. We're going to come back to it, and then we're going to read his other book, Letters and Numbers, and go through that several times. I can't express this enough. This is extremely important. Thank you, Zachary Hubbard, for doing this. You're a gem and a value and an asset to humanity. I'm happy to do the best I can to share this information. I care. I don't want to see people hurt. I hope we can move forward in another direction than the one that seems kind of dark that the world is headed in. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks you guys for watching. Get a hold of this book, and I cannot wait to return to it. Number Games, 9/11 to Coronavirus, Zachary K. Hubbard.